What does a new aircrew really need to learn first? Speed? Discipline? Nerves? Or the quiet pressure of knowing every choice matters once the wheels leave the ground? The jet age changed everything. Faster machines, smaller margins, bigger consequences. Somewhere between the roar and the silence, these films found the truth. Not the poster version, the lived one. Stay with me because one of these movies doesn't teach how to fly at all. It teaches when not to. Number 15, The Hunters, 1958. This film was supposed to celebrate the rise of jet pilots. Instead, it exposed what that rise quietly cost. Set during the Korean War, The Hunters follows F-86 Sabre pilots locked in high-altitude duels where speed erased second chances. Robert Mitchum plays a flyer who looks confident from the outside but is running on fumes inside. He is not chasing glory, he is chasing relief. Relief from the pressure. Relief from the sky that keeps calling him back. What makes this film essential for new recruits is not the flying itself, though the flying is stunning. Real jets, real formations, real Air Force cooperation. It is the mood, the stillness before a sortie, the silence after landing, the way victory never quite feels like a win. Behind the scenes, the production pushed real aircraft into risky proximity shots that made even seasoned pilots nervous. One close pass nearly ended in disaster, and the tension you feel on screen is not acting. It is restraint, the kind you learn only when speed outpaces confidence. Veterans later praised the film for capturing something rarely shown. Jet combat is fast, but the weight of it is slow. It lingers. The Hunters does not teach tactics. It teaches honesty, about fatigue, about repetition, about how the sky can become both home and burden. That is why it still gets recommended. Not because it looks heroic, because it feels familiar. Number 14, Flight of the Intruder, 1991. This is the movie pilots mention when they want to talk about frustration. Flight of the Intruder drops you into the Vietnam era, following carrier-based crews flying long, dangerous night missions, with rules that often made no sense from the cockpit. These are not loud heroes chasing applause. They are professionals dealing with limits placed far above them. The film focuses on an A-6 crew worn down by repetition and restraint. Every flight feels precise, heavy, calculated, and every return feels unresolved. The tension does not come from the sky alone. It comes from orders that clash with instinct. What makes this film stand out is its refusal to glamorize the experience. The cockpit is cramped, the missions are exhausting, the mood is restless. Director John Milius fought studio pressure to turn it into something louder and shinier. He won just enough to keep its edge. Real crews later said this film came closer to their emotional reality than most. Not the details, the feeling, the sense of flying with purpose while questioning outcomes. For recruits, this movie becomes a lesson in patience, in understanding that discipline is not always about agreement. Sometimes it is about carrying responsibility, even when clarity is missing. That is a jet-age truth few films are brave enough to sit with. Number 13, The Right Stuff, 1983. Every pilot knows this one, even if they never plan to go near space. The Right Stuff tells the story of test pilots who pushed jets beyond limits when limits were still guesses. It is about men who flew experimental machines knowing the math might fail before they did. Chuck Yeager stands at the center. Quiet, grounded, unimpressed by praise. The flying scenes feel sacred. Long runways, thin air, engines screaming into the unknown. This film treats aviation as a discipline, not a spectacle. Each takeoff feels earned. Each landing feels borrowed. What makes it essential viewing for new recruits is its respect for restraint. The bravest moments are not loud. They are calm. The pilots who survive are not reckless. They are patient, observant, willing to listen to what the aircraft is telling them. Production was intense. Real jets, real test pilot consultation, dangerous aerial work. One stunt pilot lost his life during filming, a reminder that even controlled risk is still risk. Veterans recommend this film because it explains culture, why checklists matter, why ego gets people hurt, why trust in process saves lives. The Right Stuff is not about speed, it is about judgment, and that lesson never ages. Number 12, The Bridges at Toko Ri, 1954. This is the one that makes rooms go quiet. The Bridges at Toko Ri follows a Navy pilot flying repeated missions over the same targets during the Korean War. Same valleys, same risks, same return paths, and each time the question grows heavier. How many times can duty ask the same thing? William Holden plays a man who does not want to be brave. He wants to be finished. And that honesty is what makes the film unforgettable. The Navy supported the production, allowing filming on real carriers with real deck operations. The landings feel tight. The launches feel unforgiving. Nothing is exaggerated. Nothing is rushed. What shocked audiences then, and still shocks recruits now, is the ending. No rescue fantasy. No last-second reversal. Just consequence. Quiet and final. Aircrews recommend this film because it tells the truth about obligation. Flying is not always about choice. Sometimes it is about commitment long after excitement fades. The famous closing line echoes through training halls for a reason. It is not a question about courage. It is a question about endurance. And endurance is what the jet age demands most. Number 11. Strategic Air Command, 1955. This film is slower than most, and that is exactly the point. Strategic Air Command explores the Cold War from the cockpit of long-range jets designed to stay ready at all times. Jimmy Stewart plays a pilot pulled back into service as global tension quietly tightens. There are no dramatic dogfights here, no sudden heroics. Instead, the film focuses on routine, training flights, constant readiness, long hours. It shows how pressure can exist even when nothing happens. The Air Force worked closely with the production, showcasing B-36 and B-47 aircraft in real operations. The footage feels ceremonial, heavy, deliberate. Every movement carries weight. For new recruits, this film explains a mindset. That readiness itself is a mission. That patience can be a form of discipline. That preparation is often the most important task. Veterans recommend Strategic Air Command because it teaches respect for systems, for schedules, for responsibility that never switches off. In the jet age, sometimes the most important flight is the one that never leaves the runway. Number 10. Top Gun, 1986. This is the movie everyone knows, and the one pilots argue about the most. Top Gun did not just show jets. It created a feeling. Sunlit decks, roaring engines, confident voices over the radio. For many recruits, this was the first time aviation felt larger than life, and that is exactly why aircrews still talk about it carefully. The flying sequences were groundbreaking. Real F-14 Tomcats, real carrier launches, real strain on the body, actors trained with pilots and endured forces that left them shaken. Tom Cruise pushed hard to earn credibility, and many scenes captured genuine physical reactions rather than performance. But the film is not recommended for accuracy. It is recommended for discussion. Veterans often show Top Gun to new recruits to talk about contrast, the difference between image and reality, between confidence and discipline, between bravado and teamwork. The movie celebrates individuality, but real squadrons survive on coordination and trust. Behind the scenes, military oversight shaped what could and could not be shown. Risky behavior was softened, consequences were trimmed. What remained was an anthem, not a manual. Top Gun matters because it shows why flying attracts people in the first place. Then instructors step in and explain what the movie leaves out, and that conversation is the real lesson. Number 9. Bat-21, 1988. This is jet age flying with the sky taken away. Bat-21 tells the true story of a downed aircrew member during the Vietnam War and the long, tense effort to bring him home. There are jets in this film, but they are distant, supporting, listening, waiting. Gene Hackman plays a navigator forced to survive on the ground, guided only by a voice in his headset and a map that keeps shrinking. The danger here is not speed. It is exposure, stillness, time. Pilots recommend this film because it shows what happens after things go wrong, how communication becomes lifeline, how patience becomes strategy, how flying is often about supporting others rather than being seen. Production was harsh. Filming in dense jungle pushed crews to their limits. Weather delays, equipment failures, injuries. The environment did not cooperate, and that tension bleeds into the film. The military offered limited support, cautious about how closely the story mirrored real command confusion. That honesty is why aviators respect it. Bat-21 reminds recruits that flying is not just about leaving the ground. It is about responsibility when someone else cannot, and that weight never leaves the cockpit. Number 8. The Great Santini, 1979. This one is not about combat in the air. It is about what flying does to people when they come home. The Great Santini centers on a Marine pilot whose discipline does not stay on base. Robert Duvall delivers a performance that feels lived in, controlled, explosive, human. His character commands his family the way he commands a squadron, and the lines blur fast. Pilots recommend this film because it talks about identity. When flying becomes more than a job, when structure replaces softness, when leadership turns inward. Duvall trained closely with Marine aviators to capture their posture, tone, and presence. He flew in jet aircraft and studied command culture carefully. The result feels uncomfortably real to many who recognize pieces of themselves on screen. The film stirred controversy on release. Some felt it was too critical. Others felt it was overdue. The military did not officially support it, but years later many veterans embraced it quietly. For recruits, this movie becomes a reminder. The uniform comes off. The mindset does not always follow. The Great Santini is recommended not to teach flying, but to teach balance. And balance is harder than any maneuver. Number 7, Dark Blue World of 2001. This film surprised pilots who thought they had seen every aviation story. Dark Blue World follows Czech pilots who fled their homeland to fly for Britain during the Second World War, only to return home after victory and face punishment for it. While said earlier, its themes speak directly to the jet age. Loyalty, politics, the cost of service beyond the cockpit. The flying sequences are elegant and grounded, real aircraft blended carefully with effects that respect weight and momentum. The film never rushes. It lets silence speak. Pilots recommend this movie because it captures something universal. The sky feels free. Governments do not. And that tension never disappears. Production faced pressure at home, where the story challenged official history. Even so, the director held firm, delivering a film that values personal sacrifice over national slogans. For new recruits, Dark Blue World becomes a lesson in perspective. That service does not always come with gratitude. That flying for principles can carry consequences far beyond the runway. It is not a loud film. It does not need to be. Its truth lands softly and stays. Number 6, Iron Eagle, 1986. Every instructor knows this one will come up. Iron Eagle is not realistic. Everyone agrees on that. A teenager flying a frontline jet on a rescue mission belongs to fantasy. And yet, pilots still talk about this movie with a strange respect. Why? Because it understands motivation. The film is about belief, about loyalty, about refusing to accept loss quietly. The flying scenes, filmed with real jets provided by a foreign air force, are energetic and raw. The sound design is powerful. The sense of movement is convincing. Behind the scenes, the production was dangerous. A stunt pilot lost his life during filming, a sobering reminder that even imagined stories carry real risk. Pilots recommend Iron Eagle not as instruction, but as inspiration. It shows why people want to fly before they understand how hard it is. Before checklists replace dreams. In training halls, this movie often starts conversations about limits, about rules, about why discipline exists. Iron Eagle is not about how flying works. It is about why flying matters enough to respect. Number 5, The Final Countdown, 1980. This film asks a question no cockpit checklist prepares you for. What happens when power meets choice? The Final Countdown places a modern aircraft carrier into the past, just hours before a pivotal moment in history. Suddenly, advanced jets face slower, prop-driven fighters. The advantage is absolute, and that is where the tension begins. Pilots recommend this film not for fantasy, but for ethics. The flying is extraordinary. Real carrier operations, real deck launches, real aircraft filmed in real weather. The sequence of modern jets escorting older fighters remains one of the most breathtaking moments ever captured at sea. Behind the scenes, the Navy gave rare access to the USS Nimitz, allowing cameras to document authentic flight cycles. The result feels heavy with responsibility. Every launch carries consequence beyond fuel and distance. What makes this film endure among aircrews is not action, but restraint. The characters must decide whether capability equals permission, whether strength should always be used. For new recruits, this becomes a lesson in command thinking. Technology moves fast. Judgment must move slower. The Final Countdown reminds pilots that the hardest decisions are not made in the air. They are made before takeoff. Number 4, Memphis Belle, 1990. Though set in an earlier war, this film feels deeply jet age in spirit. Memphis Belle follows a bomber crew on what is meant to be their final mission. They are tired, focused, counting the hours. Every interaction feels sharpened by repetition and quiet fear. Pilots from every generation recognize this feeling, the waiting, the routine, the way relief and tension exist at the same time. The production gathered real flying aircraft from across the world, choreographing formation flights that demanded extreme precision. Pilots flew close, very close. One aircraft suffered a serious mechanical issue mid-shoot and barely returned safely. Aircrews recommend this film because it captures crew coordination better than almost any other. Everyone matters. Every role counts. no one flies alone. Actors trained extensively with real aviators, learning procedures, timing, and cockpit discipline. That effort shows. Memphis Belle teaches recruits that endurance is not dramatic. It is quiet, repetitive, shared. And that teamwork is not optional, it is survival. Number 3. The Dam Busters, 1955. This is the blueprint. The Dam Busters tells the story of an impossible mission carried out through innovation, precision, and trust. Pilots had to fly low, straight, and steady under extreme pressure, relying on timing rather than force. Jet age crews still recommend this film because it explains problem-solving in flight. When existing methods fail, discipline and creativity must work together. The Royal Air Force supported production, allowing real aircraft to recreate demanding flight paths. These sequences feel measured, almost ceremonial. No wasted motion, no excess. Behind the scenes, experimental devices used during filming caused real accidents, reinforcing the danger of pushing new ideas too far, too fast. For recruits, this movie teaches preparation. Briefings matter, rehearsals matter, team trust matters. The Dam Buster shows that success in the air rarely comes from speed alone. It comes from precision built long before the runway appears. That lesson remains timeless. Number 2, 13 Days, 2000. This film is about the flight that almost happened. 13 Days explores a moment when jets were ready, crews were alert, and the world stood on the edge of irreversible decisions. Reconnaissance flights become the quiet center of the story. Calm voices, steady hands, immense pressure. Pilots recommend this film because it shows how close the jet age came to ending itself. The flying sequences are tense without spectacle. Every pass matters. Every return feels uncertain. The focus is not action, but restraint. The production relied on declassified records rather than official support, reconstructing events with careful attention to detail. Real aviators advised on cockpit behavior, radio discipline, and mission pacing. For new recruits, this movie reframes courage. Sometimes courage means holding position. Sometimes it means waiting. 13 Days teaches that flying is not always about movement. Sometimes it is about stillness under pressure. And that stillness can change history. Number 1, Fail Safe, 1964. This is the jet age stripped bare. Fail Safe presents a nightmare scenario where technology moves faster than human correction. A simple error sends pilots toward an outcome no one wants yet cannot stop. There are no heroes shouting, no dramatic maneuvers, just calm voices, procedure, and growing realization. Pilots recommend this film because it shows the weight of obedience, the cost of systems without pause, the danger of assuming machines will always protect judgment. Shot in stark black and white, the film feels clinical and relentless. Silence becomes the loudest sound. Radios hum. Time closes in. The military distanced itself from the production, uneasy with how closely it mirrored real protocols. That discomfort is exactly why the film matters. For recruits, fail-safe is a warning. Technology demands responsibility. Discipline demands awareness. And silence can be more frightening than noise. This is why it sits at number 1. Not because it thrills, because it warns. So what should a new recruit really watch first? Speed or silence? Confidence or restraint? These films are not about perfect flying. They are about pressure, patience, and the moments when judgment matters more than skill. If one of these stayed with you, tell us which and why. Share this with someone chasing the sky. And remember, the jet age was never just about going faster. It was about learning when to stop,